only one on DACA. They don't want to solve DACA.
When the Democrats don't have substance on their side, they scream things like racist. When you look at this, they have nothing to stand on, which is why they're losing.
That super secret FISA memo could be made public right before the president's State of the Union speech on Tuesday.
Donald Trump has constitutional rights, too. The government was unleashed on him. That memo is going to frighten Americans.
Maxine Waters is giving her very own State of the Union response to the president.
Impeach 45! Impeach 45!
FedEx raising wages, giving out bonuses, and increasing pension funding. Employees will get $200 million.
Person that's excited about it. You know who else is excited? Geraldo Rivera.
Of course.
And that's why he joins us. Geraldo, how are you, man?
Very excited. Between Rachel and I, we need our own daycare center.
Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Let's get right to it, Geraldo. I've been talking, obviously.
13 between us?
Yes, there is.
Yeah,
13.
there you go. More on that.
It'd be hard to find a babysitter, though.
Let's talk about what we've been talking about all morning, though, Geraldo, and that is the White House legislative framework coming out on Monday. We've laid it out all morning. We're going to do it one more time. There's basically 4 points of it. $25 billion for border security. That means a wall. It eliminates visa lottery. It curbs chain migration, and it gives a pathway to citizenship for nearly 2 million dreamers, those young immigrants brought here illegally as children. What do you make of this?
Well, I think, Griff, we have the makings of a real compromise here for the first time. I think that if you strip away all of the noise and the I think unhelpful statements by Leader Pelosi bringing race and racism into this debate at this late stage and focus on the two items. Number one, remember the movie, Jim Carrey movie, Liar, Liar, where he just, at some point, he couldn't lie anymore. He had to tell the truth. I think that what you saw with Chuck Schumer when a week ago Friday, when he said that they would go along with the wall, that was because he couldn't not tell the truth. The truth was that the Democrats have decided that the southern border wall is something that is unavoidable, however distasteful to them. On the other hand, I think that the core of the Republican Party has come to the conclusion that the Dreamers must be given some form, some roadmap to citizenship. And how you now define this negotiation, I believe, is how many Dreamers now qualify. The Dems give on the wall, the GOP and the Conservatives give on the Dreamers, and therein lies the essence of a compromise that can settle this issue once and for all.
Okay, so can we just first look at what Nancy Pelosi had to say about this deal, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
The president put forth a plan. That plan is a campaign to make America white again. They are changing the character of our country by what they are putting forth. They bring a tear to the eye of the Statue of Liberty, and they bring fear to the hearts of people who are here playing by the rules.
Does that fear-mongering work? He gave, for conservatives, citizenship and 1.8 DACA recipients is a lot more than people expected this White House to give. There's a lot of angst on the conservative right about that. They made that concession out of the gate, whether it was the right thing to do or not. Yet that is her response. You're racist.
You know, Pete, I think it's very unhelpful, and it's almost immature. It's like if you can't have a good argument, you bring in racism or something misogynist. I mean, whatever the term that is easy to bandy about. I think it's something that does not contribute to solving this dilemma. We now have a dilemma. I know that you've been doing a story about a young man killed in 2010 by an undocumented immigrant, an illegal immigrant. You know, you have the other story on the other side, Jorge Garcia, this Detroit dad who'd been here 30 years, 2 citizen children, law-abiding, hard-working, and his kids are clutching his leg as he's being deported. I think that those are 2 images that we've got to erase from the American consciousness. We've got to solve this problem. We've got an issue where we have millions of people without proper documentation in this country. We have they come across a border wall now. I think Democrats and Republicans agree, a border that is undefended and very difficult to regulate. So let's get this together. Let's get this done. The president wants to get the Dreamers, a path to citizenship and some compassion. I think the Democrats now have conceded that the southern border wall is so ingrained now in the political consciousness of the country that it has to happen in some form. Let's move forward on that basis.
Geraldo, so we're both Latinos. I agree with you that you set it up perfectly. I think people have a heart for DACA recipients who've been here for a long time, and they don't want them deported. At the same time, their heart also goes out for those people who have been hurt by open borders. So you're an advisor. Say you're an advisor to the president. I know he listens to you. He's at the State of the Union. He's going to address the Dreamers that the Democrats have brought into the State of the Union hall and the Dreamers that are watching out there in the Hispanic community. What should the president say at that moment? He has a direct voice without the filter of the media.
That's a great question, and I hope that the president sometimes listens to my unsolicited advice. I appreciate that he follows me on Twitter. That's terrific. What I hope he does is to speak in moderation, Rachel. I want him to not bring in the hard edges of this debate any longer. I want him to focus on this apparent agreement in the middle. Forget about the Freedom Caucus on the one side and the far-left Democrats on the other, and focus on the great core of the moderates in both parties that can agree to a reasonable compromise. A compromise means you don't get everything you want. A compromise means you have to suffer a little pain. A compromise means you have to give up something. Otherwise, it's not a compromise. I think now we have this ability. The president can say, here, to answer your specific question, I love these Dreamers. They're vetted. We know exactly who they are. They're hardworking, or they're in the military, or they're in college. We want to keep them, their vital energy and their patriotism right here in the only country they've ever known. On the other hand, I appreciate that the Democrats have now agreed to fulfill what is the most important issue for my constituents, the majority of the people in those electoral states who voted me to be the 45th president. We need a southern border wall. I would say something like this.
I hope you're
my 12-year-old.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
My 12-year-old says, why don't you have a fence between properties? I mean, a good fence makes a good neighbor. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Geraldo,
I hope you're right, but Griff interviewed a lot of those senators, and they didn't like the wall. So anyway,
yeah, we could talk about this pretty much for the next week, but I want to hit one more topic with you before we run out of time, and that is a story after the State of the Union later in the week. An expected FISA memo will be made public. The Department of Justice and Democrats like Adam Schiff, the ranking member of the Intelligence Committee, they're saying don't release this. We had Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch, on earlier, and we asked about this. Take a listen.
It's well past time for a serious investigation of what went on at the DOJ and FBI. I want to know why these agents are still at the FBI. Lisa Page worked for the #2 at the FBI, who's still there, Andrew McCabe, and it looks like they're talking about not using sufficient FBI resources and purposely withholding FBI resources and pulling back in order not to get Mrs. Clinton angry. And it explains why the FBI investigation was half-baked and ridiculous.
Okay, so Tom there, Geraldo, talking about sort of we need transparency in all of this. What do you make of this release of the possible release of the FISA memo?
Release the damn memo. I mean, this is a country that is supposed to be open. An open government. Let's release this damn memo. The House Republicans on the Intel Committee have compiled this 4-page document, this memo. As I understand it, the heart of this memo suggests very strongly that the valued and vaunted FBI was not impartial in terms of its probe of the president and the Russiagate and so forth. If they were not impartial, if the FBI was not impartial, in other words, if it was politically motivated in any aspect of the investigation of Russiagate and the president's involvement, then people should know that. people should know that there is a corruption, however difficult it is to come to grips with that, a corruption at the heart, or whoever is dealing with this probe of Russiagate and the president. I think the American people deserve to know, for example, this FISA warrant that led to the investigation of Carter Page. If indeed the FISA warrant, which is very difficult to obtain, was based on the dossier, the discredited Steele dossier about the president's alleged shenanigans in Moscow back in 2013, if that dossier was really the basis for getting the FISA warrant, then people should know that. Then there's a rotten foundation. You can't build a building on a cancerous, rotten foundation. I think you have to release the memo. You have to be full disclosure. The Democrats can write their own damn memo also. But it is better for the American people to know what's going on than that.
And they're going to. Geraldo, thank you.
Thanks, Geraldo.
Thanks for
Thank you, Geraldo.
Okay.
We'll bring you back after the memo is released.
Thank you, Rachel.
All right. Turning now to your headlines. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson paying tribute and respect to the victims of the Holocaust overnight during a visit to Poland. Tillerson laying a wreath at the Warsaw Ghetto Heroes Monument commemorating the 73rd anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz.
On this occasion, it reminds us that we can never be indifferent to the face of evil.
Tillerson in Poland for diplomatic talks with senior officials. El Chapo is promising not to kill any of the jurors in his upcoming federal trial. Prosecutors worried for their safety say jurors need armed protection. A lawyer for the drug kingpin arguing that it sends the message to the jury that he is dangerous and guilty. El Chapo was extradited to the U.S. from Mexico last year. He faces a slew of charges for his alleged role in running a drug empire. Ooh, I'd be scared to be a juror, too. Deputies try pulling over a runaway horse in a hilarious video that you have to check out.
Can you stop? Please?
Wow. Authorities say one of their deputies spotted the animal running down a Florida highway. He called in backup, telling the station he was, quote, traveling at 1 horsepower. Deputies eventually corralled the horse away from traffic before finding its owner and reuniting them. And those are your headlines.
Don't forget that's what horsepower comes from.
Horses on the loose.
Yeah.
Real horses.
Love it. All right, moving on. Maxine Waters has given this speech many, many times since the president got into the White House.
Impeach 45! Impeach 45! Impeach 45!
It's pretty much her entire speech. But now she isn't just boycotting the president's State of the Union address. She's giving her own. Set your alarm.
And Abby is back. She's stopping by the curvy couch for the
Man claiming responsibility for an attack in Kabul that killed at least 95 people overnight.
This making it the deadliest insurgent attack in Afghanistan so far this year.
Our own Ellison Barber is live in Washington with the latest. And Ellison, what's the latest?
It's the Taliban's second successful attack in a week in Kabul, a city that has high security. At least 95 people are dead. In the last hour, that number increased dramatically, and it could increase even more. Right now, officials say at least 150 people are injured. The explosion happened at a security checkpoint. Smoke filled the sky as people of all ages ran for safety.
The casualties are very high. Bodies were everywhere, near the hospital and everywhere. I don't know if the attacker was on foot or if it was a suicide car bomb. Maybe it was a suicide car bomb because I saw pieces of a vehicle on the road and it had also created a crater on the road. The incident happened 5 meters away from my car.
It was a suicide car bomb. A spokesperson for the Afghan Ministry of Interior tells the Associated Press the suicide bomber used an ambulance to get through a security checkpoint. They say the attacker told police he was taking a patient to a nearby hospital, and once the attacker reached a second security checkpoint, he detonated explosives. The Taliban, through a spokesperson, quickly took responsibility for the attack. A week ago in the same city, Taliban militants killed 22 people in an attack on the Intercontinental Intercontinental Hotel. The U.S. State Department said 4 Americans were among the dead and 2 among the injured. The Taliban controls territory in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Earlier this month, the U.S. cut aid to Pakistan because, according to the U.S., the country has failed to take action against militant groups operating in the country. The State Department said aid would be cut until Pakistan took action against groups like the Taliban. Pakistan has long denied those types of accusations. The street where the latest attack happened is reportedly only open to government workers. Government buildings are in this area. The old Interior Ministry building is in this area, as are foreign embassies, European Union, and Indian consulates. Rachel, Pete, Griff.
Ellison, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ellison.
Well, a deadly attack meant to be very symbolic, too. If you're the Taliban, you want to show that government you can hit them at the heart. I've spent time in that very neighborhood. It is a very secure area.
Yeah.
This also is not the fighting season, so you're seeing 2 deadly attacks in a matter of weeks. Doesn't bode well for the security situation there and raises a lot of questions about how you actually secure it in light of all the control the Taliban has right now. So
likely a message, actually.
Very much so. Absolutely. So we'll keep covering that and bring the latest to you when it happens. All right, coming up, President Trump unveiling his plan to crack down on immigration. The son of our next guest was killed by an illegal immigrant in 2010. She's here to react to the president's plan next.
And a trio of blue states now suing President Trump over his tax plan. Do they have a case? Neil Cavuto here to discuss it. You don't want to miss it, unless you're from New York, Connecticut, or New Jersey. Some quick headlines. Cam Jordan of the New Orleans Saints giving a 108-year-old World War II veteran the gift of a lifetime, tickets to the Super Bowl.
Appreciate everything that you do. And, you know, we just thought we'd be able to try and bless somebody, you know, with these tickets.
I appreciate all of what you're doing, too. And I want you to keep it up, yeah?
Jordan is a nominee for the prestigious Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. And controversial ESPN anchor Jemele Hill is leaving her SportsCenter position for a lower-profile writing job with the network sports culture website The Undefeated. ESPN suspending Hill last year shortly after calling President Trump a white supremacist in a tweet. Rachel?
The president is out with his plan to crack down on immigration, which includes $25 billion to secure our border,
including a pathway to citizenship for 1.8 illegal immigrants. This hits home for our next guest, whose 18-year-old son, Joshua, was killed by an illegal immigrant in 2010 who was brought here as a 10-year-old up front. Tell us a little bit about your son.
Josh was 18, a senior in high school, just living life and learning, loving, and he was brutally tortured, beaten in the head with a closet rod, strangled to death, and then after death set on fire.
My goodness, horrific. We're sorry.
Very sorry to hear that. So you've seen the plan that's come out, you know, $25 billion for the wall, the end to chain migration, and to visa lottery. What do you think of the plan, especially in light of the tragedy that your family has had to endure?
I'm not excited about it because we were promised no DACA, you know, build the wall. So I'm not really excited about it, although I know we will have to make some concessions. If this is the only way that we can fund a wall and it gets built, it might be the thing we have to do. I don't like it. You know, it sets a huge precedent when you are allowing parents in the name of their child to break a federal law and then rewarding the child by giving them citizenship and a right to vote and every right in this country.
Well, Laura, the man who's now who's 19 at the time, who killed your son, was a dreamer, brought here illegally by his parents. How does it make you feel when a pathway to citizenship is part of the initial proposal?
Yeah, that's what I do not like about it. You know, it might be that they could even stay here at some point if we just absolutely had to. But to have the right to vote and to have the rights as every citizen in this country has, I don't think is right. We don't have to give them anything. The ones that are marching and demanding in the streets, we don't owe them anything. So we don't have to give an inch. And, you know, I don't like the fact that they're demanding something like it's owed to them. It is not. We don't have to give them anything. I realize some concessions may have to be made, but they better be few.
So I've interviewed other angel moms and dads on this show. They all say the same thing to me. They say, thank you, Fox News, for covering the story. We hear so much about all the good things that Dreamers and DACA recipients have done. We hear so little, and so few networks are willing to cover the story about my son or daughter. Can you expand on that?
Yes, I mean, so grateful about it because you don't hear it on the other media, and so it has to be told. It's a true story. It's the other half of what's happening to all of the valedictorians and salutatorians that are here and doing so wonderfully, but they're still here illegally. And so, yes, we're the other half of the story. You have to present them both. And, yes, I am grateful for Fox in doing so.
So, Laura, looking at the parameters of the deal, which have been sort of generally laid out for quite some time, if there were changes you would like to see made or things you need to see happen, and you had a message for this president, what would it be?
That they have no right to vote ever, that they don't have a right for their parents to stay in this country, that in the visa lottery, no chain migration. If we can cap it to it's a certain number, then that's one thing, but I don't believe that we're there yet. And so we have to have the things he promised. That's what he promised us, and that's what we helped him get elected on.
Is part of your fear,
we fully expect him to do it.
Is part of your fear that some of the amnesty will take place, but then other things won't happen? Would you be in support of, if the wall gets built and the lottery system ends and chain migration is curtailed, then we can look at sort of citizenship for Dreamers or legal status for DACA recipients? Is ordering or sequencing important for you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You can't even really assess who's here because it changes every second of every day before you have the wall. If this is President Trump's way to get the wall, I understand what he's doing, but at the same time, you're right. I don't believe in giving them citizenship. But right, maybe there's a way for them to stay here legally, but you have to do the first things first. Until you close that border, if we're looking 20, 30 years down the road, if that border's not closed, my grandbaby has no chance. I mean, it's going to be an open third world country, and there's going to be nothing different than that,
Laura, your story is powerful. Thank you for coming on. I saw the photo of your son, and he was a dreamer too, and American children are dreamers as well. That's why that phrase is very loaded. Thank you for sharing your story and for giving your thoughts on this proposal by the president. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
You're welcome. If I can,
yes, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I just want to tell you that I did visit with the man that killed Joshua just a few weeks ago, and his narrative has changed. He's changed it to the Kate Steinle case. He didn't mean to kill Josh, so he should be okay. And that's the way it's going to go. Every time, when you said something new, you give an inch, they're going to take a mile. And, that just sickened me.
Well, Laura Wilkerson, we're with you on that. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. More Fox News on the other side.
Thanks.
At Joseph.
His motives and his actions are contemptible, and I will fight every day until he is impeached. Impeach 45. Impeach him. Impeach him. Impeach 45. Impeach 45.
Well, that's what you've heard from Maxine Waters before, during, and after the election of President Trump. It seems she's not going to relent on that, guys.
Nope, and she says she's not going to the State of the Union. And by the way, because she said that, there was a young vet who tweeted, "I'll take her seat," and my husband and I talked about it, and we gave him my seat. So Maxine got someone else to go to the State of the Union in place of her.
She won't be there, but she's still going to give her own State of the Union. She will be responding, not the official Democratic response, the official resistance response will be held on BET, which will be hosting its first State of the Union with her giving it.
Right.
Interesting indeed. Now, let's get a little bit of input from our viewers here at Friends at Fox News. This is from Pearl. Does she really think anyone cares if she doesn't attend the State of the Union address?
Oh, to your point, there's a vet that's happy she isn't.
That's right. And I think, oh, that's the only one we have so far.
One email in our inbox.
Come on, give us more emails on what you think.
I think everyone's like, Maxine, enough already, We're done with it. But that is the implications of the 2018 midterms, though. I mean, it's a fair... If Democrats take control of the House, that will become the mantra of all Democrats.
Right. She is a big leader in the House right now because of her resistance. So
you're right.
You'll get more Maxine. All right.
An unlikely leader, by the way. Because Maxine Waters really has found a sort of second act, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
They
call her Anti-Maxine. Anti-Maxine is what they call her. All right, we're going to turn now to some headlines. NATO jets intercepting a Russian aircraft accused of trying to hide from air traffic radar along the Baltic Sea near Europe. Military aircraft do not activate their transporters, risk collision with passenger planes. Russia, as yet, to comment on this potentially dangerous flight. This comes after several incidents of Russian jets buzzing Air Force fighters. The Congressional Black Caucus. This photo, Senator Barack Obama with Louis Farrakhan, is just now being revealed because the photographer who took it says that the Congressional Black Caucus made him hide it. Some believe it would have made a big difference to the former president's political career, including lifelong Democrat Alan Dershowitz.
If I had known that the president had posed smilingly with him when he was a senator, I would not have campaigned for Barack Obama. It would have influenced my decision.
Farrakhan is known for embracing radically anti-Semitic and anti-white views. Air Force One reportedly needs new refrigerators, and it's going to cost the taxpayers $24 million, according to Defense One. The coolers on the presidential aircraft need to store 3,000 meals on board for weeks without resupplying. 2 of those 5 refrigerators on the aircraft need to be replaced. Repairs are set to be completed by October 2019. Tiger Woods making his first PGA Tour cut since 2015. The often injured Woods now under 1 at Torrey Pines, 1 stroke above the cut line in just his second event since his DUI arrest. Phil Mickelson in the mix at 6 under par, and a great moment after accidentally hitting a fan with one of his shots. Mickelson signing a glove for the fan, writing, quote, "Next time, duck." And those are your headlines.
Absolutely. Well, you know someone else who's interested in golf is Rick Reichmuth, because, Rick, you've got a company, Weatherman Umbrella, and you have an umbrella specifically for golfers in a partnership with the LPGA.
Yeah, you know what? We launched it this week at the PGA show in Florida, in Orlando. I was down there this week launching it. You know what golf umbrellas are, the really big ones? Like really, really big? So we have 2 sizes, 62 and 68 inch, and they're amazing. UV protection, which is awesome. So if you want to use it in the sun or in the rain, weathermanumbrella.com. So we've got it. I don't have one on me.
You should have.
And I should have had one on me.
Yes.
Next time.
But we exactly. So yeah, they're really awesome. We're really happy with it. Thank you. Talk a little bit of weather out there right now. You're going to need that umbrella across much of the South today. Take a look at all of this rain. Actually, rain cutting across the Mississippi Valley and towards the Ohio River Valley throughout the day today. Heaviest of it down across parts of the Deep South. Very heavy rain has fallen this morning across southeast Texas. Much of Louisiana is going to get it throughout the day today. Some of it, probably about 4 to 5 inches of rain, is going to cause some flooding. Northeast continuing to get that, northwest I should say, the steady stream of moisture. Pick your place and watch the map. This is what the weekend is going to look like all the way through Monday. That storm in the east continues to pull to the east. It's all rain this time, not snow. Florida, you're going to get quite a bit of rain, especially across parts of central Florida throughout the late afternoon tomorrow, and more rain coming into the Pacific Northwest. Temperature-wise, not as cold as it has been, but we have that cold air coming back. Looks like trends towards colder air coming back in about a week or so. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Rick.
Rick, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Well, still ahead, a trio of blue state governors now suing President Trump over his tax plan, saying it's unfair to their states. Do they have a case? Our own Neil Cavuto here to discuss. Next.
And look who's here. Abby's back in the studio for the first time since becoming a mom. Hey!
Monkeys escaped from the biggest zoo in Paris, forcing it to go on lockdown. This is a bad dream for a lot of people. The zoo evacuating visitors and warning people not to make contact with the baboons, who they say are could be potentially very aggressive. The monkeys running uncontrollably, as monkeys would do, before being captured by wildlife officials. It's unclear how they got out in the first place. Monkeys are smart. They picked the lock. And another French frenzy, this time over discounted Nutella. Shoppers going nuts after a grocery store slashed the price by 70%, making it just under $2. Nutella is a popular hazelnut chocolate spread in the country, typically used on croissants. Tova, cue the French music for us.
Yes. Don't give the monkeys the Nutella. Drive them nuts.
I would wait in line for Nutella. That goes so fast in my house.
All right, Democratic governors want to take President Trump's tax plan to court.
A trio of East Coast governors teaming up to sue the federal government over the president's tax bill, saying it's unfair to the blue states.
Joining us this morning with his reaction, host of the new show, Cavuto Live, Neil Cavuto. You were on right after us, and we had a great premiere last week. So what do you make of these blue states coming together to sue the federal government because their state taxes are too high?
I'm still thinking of the Nutella thing, guys.
Me too.
Would you be like beating the you-know-what out of someone to get a jar of that? I mean, calm down. No. You know, for processed meats and cheeses, yes, I can see it.
It's good, but that
calm
good?
down.
It's good. On
It's wonderful, but holy cow, what the heck? No, I'm sorry, I had to digress, but you know, I'm telling you, this is not going to end. These three Democratic governors of these three high-tax states, I might say, they don't like the position they're being put in right now. And by the way, there were a number of Republican representatives from those states who voted against the tax bill, fearing the wrath of constituents who are going to discover once they file their taxes next year. It's not a this-year development, even though it's taking effect this year, that lo and behold, they can't deduct nearly as much of the very, very high state local taxes they pay. So these governors are joining forces to say, what you Republicans voted on is unconstitutional. I don't think it's going anywhere. But they're sending a signal right now that they know it is going to hurt them, and it will hurt them. There's already talk here that they're going to have to rein back on spending and the kind of stuff that they just don't want to do right now. But it is a mess.
Neil, are they out of touch with CEOs in those states?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I live in New Jersey, and one of the things that the new governor there, Phil Murphy, has talked about is a surtax on upper-income folks. And in that environment, he's even bumping heads with his own Senate president, who's a Democrat. In fact, New Jersey is one of 8 states where Democrats run the show, all branches of government. Yet even there, they recognize that you could be chasing the well-to-do out of your state if you make it very expensive for them. So there's a bit of a drama building here. Now, whether it's going to change their behavior or find, you know, a more affordable government, I mean, they each have their own sort of weird issues to deal with. But I don't think it's going to lead to any sort of spending restraint, hence what they're doing now to just sort of file a lawsuit to stop this thing. But I don't think that's going to happen, but we're going to explore it.
There's been so much good economic news. Is it just that the Democrats are flailing, like they don't know how to handle, they didn't vote for this tax reform, so they can't take credit for the good news, and so they're just trying to distract and kind of come up with a message? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, you know what's weird about it, Rachel, is that not too long ago, and you can remember way back talking about this type of thing on Cash It In, those are the good old days. Yeah. And one of the things that, if you remember, is that at that time, many years ago, not that many years ago, a lot of Democrats were rallying around the idea of a bonus that would come via a payroll tax cut that could amount to, wouldn't you know, about $1,000. And back then they were championing that. So they're in this weird position of trying to explain how they can dismiss companies handing out $1,000 bonus checks. That's not coming from the government, it's coming from the companies. Yet they were very angry at Republicans for trying to stop a payroll tax that amounted to, ta-da, $1,000. So yeah, I know hypocrisy knows no bounds with either party when it comes to D.C., but it is this weird fix there. And because even the White House has readily acknowledged they didn't see all of this corporate largesse of sharing the loot to the degree they are. And again, as you guys were mentioning earlier, more and more companies are doing this. I mean, an average of 10 a day. So we're going to see probably a lot more.
You know, all these companies there, it's more than we can scroll through without spending the entire segment doing so. Rachel raised a great point.
Please try not to, Pete, because
we'll try
we're going to scroll through
You're too beautiful, Neil.
Yeah,
we can't do that. Rachel pointed out, though, this doesn't even count the small businesses in smaller towns and elsewhere who are giving back to their employees as well.
Very good point. There's a small store by where I live, and the manager there was telling me he usually puts some ring-dings aside for me, so we're very, very tight. But he was telling me he's looking to hire more people. He's been raising wages, and that's just one small store and a small retail operation in my neck of the woods. So Rachel's right about that. I mean, that's something that goes underreported here. But there's this pay-it-forward argument with all of this relief that it's not just the big companies. And remember, guys, this is all happening pre-individuals seeing more net in their pay beginning next month. So it's a win-win for the economy. Now, there'll be a lot of people criticizing it and how this tax thing was all structured. Be that as it may, the pay-it-forward benefits are happening fast and furious.
Yeah. And Neil, one of those, you're going to talk to Bernie Marcus, right? Home Depot's co-founder?
The Home Depot co-founder, right.
He's giving bonuses as well. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Who else you got on the show?
Well, we're talking, again, this idea that how far does this go? John Paul DeJoria is a multi-billionaire, and he became even a richer billionaire this past week when a big company scooped up his liquor enterprise. But he's big on giving all his money away before he goes. And I asked him, did you sit down with your kids and discuss this. Apparently, they were all okay with that. But we're seeing a lot more of that, and he thinks that this tax cut is going to generate even more of that. So coming up.
Good stuff. Neil,
All right,
we'll be
Neil,
watching.
thanks.
Thanks,
on
Neil.
this channel from 10 to 12 Eastern Time. Appreciate it.